Have you ever looked up at a giant skyscraper or even just a new house on your street and really wondered, how did that get there? I mean, every single building has a story, a whole epic saga of ideas, problems, and breakthroughs. But how do you even begin to write a story that complex? Well, it turns out there's a script for that, and that's what we're going to unpack today.
So, where does a story like that begin? Especially for something as ridiculously complex as a skyscraper. You're not talking about one decision. You're talking about thousands, made by hundreds of different people. How on earth do you keep all of that organized and pointed in the same direction?
You do it the same way any huge production wrangles chaos. You give it a script. You create a roadmap that everyone can follow, something that brings order and clarity to the whole process. And in the world of architecture, that script has a very specific name.
It's called the RIBA plan of work, and you can really think of it as the master script for a building's entire life. It guides every single person involved to every chapter, from that very first vague idea all the way through to how the building is actually being used day in and day out for years to come.
This whole script is broken down into 8 distinct stages, or chapters, if you will. Each one builds on the last, and each one has a really clear set of tasks that have to be done before the story can move forward. It's a process that's basically designed to prevent any major plot holes in the final building.
Now, you'd probably expect a story to start at stage 1, right? But the plan of work actually kicks off at stage 0. And yeah, it sounds a little weird, but it makes a really important point. A project story begins long before anyone even thinks about picking up a pencil to draw.
So let's start with the first act of our story, drafting the big idea. This part covers stages 0 through 2, and it's all about taking a project from just a simple question to a real, tangible concept.
These first 3 stages are all about asking the right questions in the right order. See, you start with the most basic one of all. Should we even do this project in the first place? Only when you answer that, you move on to, okay, what does this thing need to do? And finally, you get to ask, what could it actually look and feel like? It's kind of like a funnel, you know? It moves from these huge strategic questions down to those first creative sparks. And that's exactly what stage 0 is for. It's that crucial pause before all the action. Before anyone gets hyped up about designs, you have to ask those fundamental questions. So, a client might say they want shiny new offices. But wait a minute, would refurbishing their current building actually be a better, more sustainable, or more cost-effective option? Stage 0 is where you weigh those big picture choices.
Okay, so once that big decision to move forward is made, stage 1 is where we start shaping the project brief. And this is not just some wish list, it's about getting really specific. We're talking defining room sizes, setting ambitious but achievable sustainability targets, nailing down a realistic budget, and gathering all the crucial info about the site itself. And now, finally, we get to stage 2, which is where that creative spark really ignites. With a solid brief in hand, the architects can start sketching, throwing ideas around, exploring different shapes and forms. This is where the building's personality, its soul, really starts to come to life.
All right, so we've got a concept. Now our story moves into its second act, creating the master blueprint. This is where we take that exciting creative idea from stage 2 and we turn it into a detailed, buildable plan.
The absolute key idea for this whole phase is right here. While the design isn't 100% detailed just yet, it has to be coordinated. This is the moment the project shifts from one person's vision into a massive team effort.
And that's the main job of stage 3, spatial coordination. You've got the architects, the structural engineers, the mechanical systems designers. They all bring their plans to the table. And the goal is to make sure everything fits, to make sure the support columns actually fit inside the walls and the giant air ducts don't try to run through a major steel beam. It's basically a massive, complex 3D puzzle.
So once everything is coordinated, stage 4 dives deep into the technical design. And I want you to think of this as writing the project's complete instruction manual. I mean complete. We are talking about specifying not just the type of brick, but the exact mortar mix, not just the window, but the specific type of screw and sealant to be used. This insane level of detail is what allows a contractor to give an accurate price and, actually build the thing correctly. And that brings us to the final act of the story. The master blueprint is finished. Now it's time to turn those drawings into a physical building and watch it begin its life.
This final act is where the whole project jumps off the computer screen and onto the construction site. It covers the build itself, which is stage 5, the super important handover to the client in stage 6, and then the building's entire life in stage 7.
Stage 5 is the build itself. That's when all the planning finally becomes reality. But the story is far from over when the last construction crane leaves the site. That brings us to Stage 6, the handover. And this is so much more than just giving someone a set of keys. It's about fixing any last little defects, making absolutely sure all the systems work like they're supposed to, and providing support for the people who are about to start using this brand new space.
And this brings us to what is probably the most overlooked chapter in the whole story. Stage 7, in use. A building story doesn't end when people move in. This stage is all about monitoring how it actually performs in the real world, and that feedback is absolutely vital. It helps with maintaining the building, for sure, but more importantly, it creates this incredible feedback loop. The data we get in Stage 7 on, say, energy use or how happy people are can become the strategic foundation for the next project, Stage 0. The story of one building literally informs the beginning of the next.
So, after going through all 8 stages, from that strange Stage 0 all the way to Stage 7, let's just zoom out for a second and ask the big question. Why does having this script matter so much?
Well, when you boil it all down, the answer is pretty simple. The RIBA plan of work. It's the glue. In a project that has so many different experts, architects, engineers, surveyors, contractors, this plan gives everyone a shared structure, a common language. It stops people from accidentally working against each other and makes sure the whole story has a coherent plot from beginning to end.
So you see, this shared script isn't just about avoiding mistakes. It's really a framework that lets us innovate. It helps us tackle the biggest challenges out there, from climate change to smarter technology. It makes sure that every new building we create isn't just another structure, but a story of progress. Which, of course, leaves us with one final, very exciting question to think about.